Hopefully that suitably scared everybody.
I think it probably has.
I think so.
That, if anyone was interested, that's which I hope everyone should be. That is what happened next with Akikoka. That is Voices, which is an excellent outfit that are good friends of ours.
They started hearing voices, is that what happened?
Indeed. Well, pretty much, actually, when it comes down to Pete. Yeah, I think that's
wouldn't be surprised.
Do elaborate. Come on.
Pete Benjamin is proud to say is a good friend of mine, and he was the most recent bassist before Akikoka split. And he is a wonderful, inspired person, and is in the old idiom touched somewhat. He's so inspired that he's quite out there.
Is he channeling?
He's channeling something that nobody quite know. Yeah, there's something up with that man that I love him for. He's yeah. No,
Are we going to film it?
Okay.
Have you seen it take over?
Yeah, well, go to any gig that they do, frankly. I mean, he really does actually put it across there. I actually, I was in a band with him many years ago called Corpsing, where he was the bassist and I was the singer. And then he went and did his own thing called For the Blind, which is amazing. It's this sort of acoustic stuff that he does. But he went and formed...
Was he thinking of the blind at the time?
Well, yeah, basically. It works very well if you shut your eyes. But, basically Pete formed a band called Voices with David Gray, who people will know as obviously the drummer from Akikoka, Sam Loynes, who is from Diminished Fifth and also was a live keyboardist for Akikoka, and Dana Baylor, who is their producer, who is a fantastic producer and a really good bassist as well. And they have just recently released their first album, which is was a Fugue of Imaginary
Rain. The Voices from the Human Forest created a Fugue of Imaginary Rain,
which has just been released on Candlelight Records. We did it!
We did it!
Yes, fantastic, and that's just been released on Candlelight. It's brilliant, and I'm obviously going to plug it because my wife's on it.
Well, then you should.
There you are. Yeah, she did guest vocals on their
Why is she
Eyes
not
Turn
here
Black.
tonight?
That's a very good point. That's
Just
a fine
wrong.
point.
Oi,
Get down here.
Yeah, that's just rude of me, isn't it? Please bring your pretty self to the studio. She'll have to hurry a bit, though.
She might have to. I do know she's back at home listening, though.
Is that far to go for her?
Camden.
Oh, she could get here.
Come
on,
it's
lovely.
Possible. Yeah.
You could get here. And then we'll have a pint after. Anyway, that's a bit...
20 minutes.
The people at home don't want to know that. I don't want to know about us going down the pub, do they? Then we'll sound like another mainstream thing.
Another mainstream act. Good God.
Yeah, we don't like that mainstream stuff where they talk about what they did.
And then probably went and played Download and, everything else.
I didn't really mean the bands. I meant the people on air. They always go, me.
Ooh, the cult of personality within metal. Intriguing.
I wasn't even talking about metal. I was talking about mainstream radio.
Oh, okay. Oh, mainstream radio. Oh, well, now, okay.
Yeah, now you got a story.
No. Well, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? I think I so rarely listen to sort of mainstream radio and everything like that because it's yeah. I mean, it's not something I sort of like spend a lot of time to.
What do you listen to, by the way?
What do I listen to? My God.
You can say the truth, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I actually find a huge amount of music that I really like on YouTube and then go and buy it. That's my sort of usual way, because I find that up until very recently, YouTube had a wonderful system of recommendation. But they changed it now recently.
My God, what it does now, it just tries to mimic the last thing you put in. I don't know what browser you're up to, but Jesus Christ.
It's
can I say?
kind of unfortunate.
Do not get Windows 8. That's my advert.
Absolutely.
Unless they pay for an advert here, even if they paid for an advert here, I'm sorry, I wouldn't sell my soul to that. Sorry, no Windows 8. It's horrid.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah. However, it's an interesting thing actually. There's a friend of mine that he writes for No Clean Singing. He's Andy Sin, and he was saying today on Facebook about. Did you read that thing that he was saying that he was suggesting he was surprised to find that there are people who go to festivals who discover new bands at festivals, which I thought was an interesting topic of conversation because I thought that we're reliant on that. I mean, we played Bloodstock in 2011, which bound down to you because without us having come on here, we wouldn't have actually got that chance to play it, which is stunning.
Appreciate that.
No, it's wonderful. It was operative for that. But we played that, and I will really say this honestly that was our largest moment of outreach, I think, that we gained the largest amount of new listeners. And I hate using the term fans because it's almost derogatory, but it's true. I mean, people that sort of were interested in us. Very proud to say that when we managed to pack out that tent, which is fantastic. We didn't expect to do it, but festivals are crucial now for bands basically sort of expanding their profile. I think more so than local gigs. And I've got to be honest, really I think the UK is dying the death when it comes down to the UK sort of toilet tour circuit as a way of expanding a profile.
Do you think people haven't got the money to go to local gigs, so they spend it all on a big festival where they can get lots of bands?
When you look, I would definitely subscribe to that. I think it's when you look at what you're getting in the investment. I know plenty of people now, and because you need only spend some time on Facebook and see people sort of consumer activity in the way that early bird tickets are de rigueur now to consume. There are people who, if they're not buying early bird tickets, they have enough notice to the tune of 12 months to save for next year's tickets. Guaranteed that you will have a decent time with your friends, ignoring the bands you dislike, and have a good time with the bands that you do like. And that will cost you upwards of, I don't know, 50, 60 quid or whatever it is. But it's a great way also to discover things you didn't quite expect. And people haven't made that cognitive link to local gigging necessarily, because that's dropped off the map. And we've lost, now in London, we've lost the Bull and Gate. And plenty of other venues going the same way, where you need only spend a fraction of that 50 or 60 pound, ticket cost and go and discover a ton of new bands, but it may be uncomfortable, whatever. I fully understand why people would choose festivals over attending loads of small local gigs. I mean, I really do.
If you had the power, which I think you have, power, how would you go about reviving the local gig scene?
Good heavens.
How about... I'm just thinking, like... Lots of people don't necessarily do, like, lots of visual stuff, etc., with their gigs. But that is something that people go because there's something extra there. There is something. I mean, it boils down now to a certain sort of character of person that goes to local gigs adamantly, and that's the purist, who will go to a gig because it's a gig, and that's the importance of doing that. And however. The simple truth, I'm sorry to say, is that gigs in the UK are less attended than they are, let's say, in Europe. You would? On the spot, what would you do? Give away free beer?
Yeah, maybe free beer, free anything, I don't know.
I think calling your band free beer would work.
Yeah.
On that note,
free beer. Great idea. Headlining free beer. I mean, you have to make it an immersive experience now. You have to do something that's different, and how do you make a gig different?
Yeah, it's true. I don't know.
Immersive, absolutely.
What's the thing?
Have you done it though?
Well, right, here's my problem. Sorry to take them on again, but it's just that, like, with Cradle of Filth, they have dancers, they have backdrops, they have props, they have, everything.
All that.
Well, I've got one, thank you. I'm very...
beer, that is. Free beer.
Puppies. Yeah, but it's a funny thing with that because, Cradle of Filth do the theatrics, and don't get me wrong, I have time for Cradle of Filth, and I've, friends that have gone through their ranks and have had fun with it and everything, but I don't want to reach the point with TALANAS where we're having to employ dancers. I genuinely think that would be a bad idea. I even will go so far as to say that I don't... in my opinion, having a backdrop and video projection screens is interesting, but the thing that immediately springs to mind when I see that happening is, why aren't the band interesting enough to watch?
I am gonna say something about this, and I don't think it works for every band. For the point, I totally get what you're saying there, yeah. But when I first was going to gigs like almost every day, I went to a lot of ones that had that kind of thing, but then they were trying to express something differently, that having that imagery as well made it super powerful. So let's since there's a bit of a Thatcher thing going on this week. So for instance, if you had a a political band with a political message, having those screens behind with those powerful images that people recognise. They recognise that propaganda has been used in television and so on. I mean, so if you're using something like that as a backdrop with powerful imagery and there's some sort of like suggestion in it that this imagery, you know, is being thrown at you for whatever reason. Sometimes if there's a really good use of it, I mean, particularly it works with political bands, and you have said that that's not really your style, but it does depend on the band. And also there were other ones I can think that I went to. There was one I went to where it was inside a school that was mostly prefab buildings, but it was being ripped down because the new school had been built. And it was a bonfire night. So they had the bonfires, they had food everywhere in different places, and you'd walk through from one room to another, and every single prefab had something else going on, different style of music, different band, different something going on.
That sounds amazing.
It was amazing. And to get in there, you had to climb over a lorry load of something.
God.
And then when you got over the other side, you had to cross a little stream that was there to get through it as well. And this is in central London, but somehow they've got all this thing going on, yeah. And it was kind of done out of waste stuff. It was kind of like the mutoid waste thing that used to go on, the early industrial stuff that used to go on, and they'd set it up in such a way it was very dark getting from one room to another, so you actually didn't know what was going to happen, and you hardly could see the people in front of you until you got into the room you were going in. So it was kind of like a weird journey in a weird film, you know. And then you sort of felt like you were actually part of the film, because it was like being in a film and you were part of everything, because it was very immersive. And then I went into a room where nobody else was, and I was looking out the window watching the fireworks. And as I was watching them, I didn't even see people coming behind me, because they're behind me. I didn't hear them. And then the next thing I knew, they were smashing the place up. But that was fine, because it was being torn down anyway. They weren't just doing it as vandalism, but they were doing it in rhythm. And they were pulling the radiators out, and they were pulling down the strip lighting, and they were taking the whole thing apart. But at the same time, they were creating rhythms, and they were creating music with what they were doing. And I was just like, whoa, you know. Then suddenly I turned round and a whole load of people have gathered just to watch this, and you just go, wow.
I mean, I've been to a number of squat parties that echoed that sort of same sentiment, and I think that certainly that Ewan and I within TALANAS, because I think he and I are more the bigger fans of Einstein and Neubauten, which certainly they have, in my mind, been responsible for some of the most fascinating.
I think these people that I was watching were clearly influenced by
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they famously have done like drilling the hole the back of the Nuremberg, the Nuremberg reception room in time, and then they exited through the back of the stage in a hole that wasn't there at the beginning of the gig. Absolutely fascinating. The only thing that I think that's amazing, and it's legendary.
Must be fun to do.
It must be fantastic to do. Now the thing is, I mean, I was in Leechwoman for a while, and they are almost explicitly sort of, you know, their whole thing is a shock value, the visual shock value as well as the musical. But that in its time was innovative and fascinating to see.
You can bring that up to now.
But you can, but the problem is that worries me now is that maybe the audience might be expecting mixed media entertainment.
It's funny, I was reading a thing yesterday about how many people go to gigs and just film it on their phones. And it's just, when you do that, you're not living in the moment. It's kind of like the cliche thing to say, like living in the moment, but it's true. And I think people don't... people expect everything to be like multimedia, and they don't quite understand the appeal of the gig, of actually like being there and seeing... you already know the songs, but you're seeing them kind of like come alive in front of you. And if you're just standing there filming it on your phone, or apparently people are doing it on iPads now, I wouldn't want to be standing behind someone doing that. But you're not understanding what is the appeal of being in the gig and seeing it sort of just come alive in front of you.
I actually asked someone recently about this sort of, because there's a wonderful picture that was circulated recently about that. It used to be like in the 70s you go to a gig and there's a certain type of song being played and all you can see is a sea of lighters, and then in the 80s or 90s all you can see is a load of fists doing the sort of horns and everything like that, and then you get to now and it's a load of mobile phones. And I asked someone who had said to me that no, I do like to film bits of gigs. I said, look, just out of interest, why? Because I mean, we do gigs, obviously, and there are times when I can judge whether we've done the right thing well enough by how many people are choosing to film us, which is a very odd situation to be in. But this person, who said, yeah, I do that, I said, look, just out of interest, just why? Why is it better for you to film it than watch it? And they said, oh, well, because, I like to send it to my friends so they can see this amazing experience that I've had. It's like, yeah, but you know that filmed gigs are nowhere near as good as the ones you experience. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they're never as good. But then surely, I mean, I don't know about you, but every single time I've seen a friend of mine send me a video or show me a video, it's like,
it's
like Barry Manilow.
If you want to share the experience you had, tell them about it. Do you know what I mean? And then it creates more intrigue that way, and people want to know what it was that you felt, rather than just seeing
I think it's the excitement of the moment. You want to capture it, but actually, like you say, the technology is not really good enough to capture it in, it's never going to be what it is, and then it does just turn out a distorted mess, but people are excited, they want to go, woo!
Yeah.
But with Pandora's box well and truly open, for us to sit here, it's droll for us to sit here and complain about it and say, isn't that unfortunate and it should stop happening. It won't stop happening. There won't be a judgment call where there'll be a ton of people going, oh my god, we're gigging wrong. That won't happen.
Sorry, but there was a moment where somebody did that at a gig and then sent it to me, and then I was like really pissed off that I wasn't there.
There's been a few
on the train and be there.
There's been a few cases of like artists from the stage telling everyone like put your phones away and stuff like that. But
whereas I think that it doesn't pose a health. I can understand an artist saying don't smoke in my gig, but if they're saying that, like famously Robert Fripp, who he tried to do some gigs recently, and he stopped performing because one person was noticeably filming on their mobile phone. That, I understand the principle. I think it's a naive thing to think that you can stop. He walked off the stage. I mean, he stopped the gig. And this is a major stadium show. It's an irresponsible thing to try and expect that people will stop using new forms of media because you dislike it. Yeah. In the same way that I greatly dislike the fact that torrenting exists and illegal downloads exist, but not that I'm accepting it, but I have to understand that there will not be this mass exodus of a judgment call where everyone goes, oh my god, we're doing the wrong thing, and that what will happen now is, rather than people stopping, like putting their mobile phones away, mobile phones will get better. And hopefully maybe that they may be sending it to someone and it will upload within seconds, and that particular someone, as you said, that could be back at home going, my god, I'm missing this, and run down to their local or something like that.
In expanding upon that, you could have it to a situation where people are actually streaming it via their phone, via the web, and
less people at the gig.
There could be, but you could be reaching people in other countries who go, well, I can't be there, but wow, and they become a fan. You don't really know. I know that we can say downloading is killing the money for the artists. Unfortunately, it's something we're going to have to deal with, and people have just got to come up with better ways of being able to afford to be artists. I mean, I have had the argument with people that say, well, music should be free. It's like, well, do you go to work for free? Do you go to work? You don't mind going to work for free then, you know what I mean? But
now more than ever, it's more of a pertinent subject to have, given the fact that, again, subject du jour of returning to Thatcher is that there ain't no such thing as a free thing, and the problem that you have is when you start to sort of propagate the idea that you can get free things, unfortunately it warps the concept of what work actually is, without wanting to open the huge sort of can of worms that obviously is the downloading argument. The problem that we, to bring it home, is that, we are a band, we are of course doing this for the love of it, and yes, we get many other things, we don't get financial recompense. We absolutely don't. We're not a profit-based act. In fact, we are at a loss. We're working at a loss. And I will absolutely, honestly say that, even as the head of a record label, I will say we are working at a loss.
Most people do, and people don't realise that. I mean, even when Top of the Pops was broadcasting, there were people on there that were signing on, and everyone just thought they were like real big famous whatever. And it's like, no, they're signing on.
But then I will present that, to be my own devil's advocate, and say that if it boils down even to the point where there's zero income whatsoever, nobody's even buying t-shirts or blah, 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 would I stop making music? No, you've got me on that point, if that's going to be the point to be made, in the way that, no, I think what I take from being in this band is I'm with 3 other people that I love hugely and I adore making art with, and that I must admit that the income is obviously secondary.
But that's like saying you won't express yourself.
Exactly, precisely that. I'll never stop expressing myself.
Of course.
But whilst there is still the forum with which to support, I'm upset by the concept that someone wouldn't. If they like it. I don't want to hold someone to ransom to say, merely because I've made something, you must reward me for it.
Wow,
but
now we need to do that Simon Cowell bit, because obviously he gets shed loads of cash.
Yeah. Well,
you don't like Simon Cowell, tell us.
he's a successful man.
That's not why you don't like him.
No, I dislike him because I think he has honestly, actually, genuinely brought about one of the largest cultural shifts that has happened within England and America to warp the understanding of what it means to be a performing artist, an original performing artist. I have had, and this is what I always return to the particular point, I've actually genuinely had someone say to me, who was uninvolved in the arts, when I said that I'm a musician and highlighted a minor amount of the struggles, said, "Oh, well, have you considered going on to the, was it the X Factor or the?"
You should go on that Britain's Got Talent.
Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Really, did somebody say that?
Yeah, no, genuinely.
Were you both there?
I've had that as well.
Yeah, he's had that.
You've had it separately.
Yeah, you always get that. Yeah.
What was your experience?
Oh, it's just, obviously we all have day jobs, and people generally that you work with don't quite sort of understand what you do, and you tell them, and their advice is always something like, "Oh, you should do gigs in pubs, or you should go on that X Factor," and because that's all they know, I guess. Or they don't understand how it works being a musician, so that's their advice to you.
They don't understand that a lot of those people end up in the bargain bins.
I have genuinely recently receive people who, even in the same industry that I work in, fellow musicians, be surprised to hear that we are not working to a profit, that we are not entirely self-funded in the way that we each release funds the next one directly. It doesn't. And we are sourcing significant and crucial amounts of money in order to fund each release. And as I say, working at a loss, and I don't think that's necessarily, relative to success with the big fingers pointing in inverted commas, because there are even fellow musicians, as I say, who think that by virtue of your expanding profile, that's relative to the fact that you have day jobs. So of course we do. All 4 of us have day jobs. Absolutely, we are doing this in our spare time. This isn't the sob story to go, no, support me, I have to work a job. We all have to work a job, for heaven's sake. But
the thing that people don't really understand, they don't really understand the kind of machinations of the industry, or that even the mainstream bands that they like maybe have a shelf life of 5 years and then are gone. They think those people are famous forever and rich forever, and they don't even understand that, what's his name, David Van Day from Dollar runs a burger van or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But that's what happens. Sorry, that's what happens to people, and they don't understand this industry is a
bugger.
I don't have a problem saying bitch. I just thought it was a too small a word for what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I need to say a bigger word. I can say any word, can't
Absolute
I?
bugger.
Cunt.
Yeah. Oh, there you
are. It's not as bad as Thatcher, but I know you're going to disagree. But,
I'm not an apologist.
I wanted to play something. I'm not going to go off the subject too long, but I wanted to play something, and it's got a comedian in it, but I can't find it in the system. And he's saying, they should send us loads of free shovels to Glasgow. We'd dig her grave for her and she can say hello to Satan personally.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to what we were saying. Yeah, this industry is not what people think. It is an illusion. It's an illusion, And
it's propagated further by people still being attracted, people who are starting bands, and I totally understand this. I myself am absolutely prone to it. There is a large attraction to this industry by the rock star ethic. The rock star life, long since dead. It's not going to happen anymore. Certainly not if you're playing in an alternative music or sort of. I know it's off. Nobody understand what I just said. Anyway,
secret talk.
Secret talk. But there's. Nobody is going to live the rockstar life in playing alternative music now to extreme alternative music. It won't happen that way. But there are plenty of people who will be invested interest in propagating that still exists. I used to think that Dave Vincent from Morbid Angel lived in some mansion in the Beverly Hills. and I was so impressed by that. And he was a death metal superstar. Now,
everyone lives in people's minds. Everyone lives in the Beverly Hills.
I wanted it to be truth. I absolutely did. No, I really did, because he presented himself in such a way that it lent itself as an ethic to this sort of like overblown character that is not just a great musician, but also a celebrated personality.
Now you know it's all acting.
And that absolutely is. I mean, I met the guy backstage at Bloodstock, and he was a lovely guy, but you know, it's just sort of like, no, it's not that way. But the interesting thing is that those that, you know, receive that art, or that are audience members or fans or anything like that, there's still a slight expectation for there to be an elevated, and I don't by any means wish to suggest superior status, because that's a bad thing to say, because that's not how I view myself or any of our fellow musicians. More that there needs to be a separation, which is the fourth wall, and to break down that fourth wall can be dangerous in many respects, not simply because you destroy people's illusions. It's also because you lower yourself to the point of going like, oh, I'm so measly, and please give me your pennies, sort of thing. It's like, no, that's not what you should be. On an equal keel, not a lesser keel, if that makes sense. You know, and I think it's
yeah, I know. I'm starting to wonder, and I know we need to play a song.
We do.
But I'm starting to wonder about that whole thing about like people. You know, there was a small trend about getting shares in artists at one point.
Sure.
And I don't know whether that has any mileage or not. Maybe you've studied it more than me. But let's play a song in between, and we will reflect on such matters. Would you like one of your own, or a bit of My Dying Bride?
Could we play Corpse Flower by any chance?
Oh, we probably could, if I could see. Oh, there it is. Is that the ticket? That's a ticket.
Because it's our new song.
Especially as that's what you're here to talk about, especially Corpse Flower. Did you ever hear a band called Corpse Vomit?
Yes, I did,
there's
actually.
There's 2 of them, so let's do that after.
All right.
Corpse Flower.